On Saturday, March 14th, 1992, the city of San Antonio, Texas awoke, wrapped in a thin morning fog that promised a perfect day for a wedding. In the heart of the historic district, where century-old buildings guard their secrets, Carmen's Bridal Boutique was preparing to welcome a very special bride. Paige Mitchell, 23 years old, had chosen this place for the final fitting of her wedding dress, the same one her grandmother had hand-embroidered 3 decades earlier. Paige, a young elementary school teacher, had grown up in a colorful neighborhood on the east side of the city, where narrow streets and painted brick houses stood in contrast to the bustle of downtown. Her fiancé, Ryan Carter, worked as an engineer at a nearby quarry, and the two had planned to marry on the last Saturday of March, when the Texas bluebonnets would be in full bloom and the weather perfect for an outdoor celebration. That morning, Paige arrived at the boutique with her mother, Mary Ellen, and her younger sister, Chloe. The dress was a work of art, white satin with silver thread embroidery shaped into tiny orange blossoms, a piece that had taken months for Grandma Rose to complete before she passed away the previous year. Carmen, the 60-year-old owner with decades of experience dressing brides, greeted the family with the warmth and charm she was known for. "Paige, honey, this dress is going to fit you like it was born on you," Carmen said as she readied the fitting room. The shop smelled faintly of roses, and sunlight poured through the tall windows, casting a soft, almost sacred glow over the space. Mary Ellen couldn't hold back tears as she watched her eldest daughter prepare to become a wife. The fitting began like any other. Paige disappeared behind the heavy velvet curtain of the fitting room at the back of the shop, laughing with her mother and sister as they helped her with the dozens of tiny pearl buttons running down the back of the dress. Carmen stepped away to help another customer looking for a quinceañera dress. "I'm almost ready," Paige called out cheerfully. "Just need help with the last few buttons at the top." It was about 11:30 a.m. The sun was starting to warm the historic district's stone sidewalks, wrapping the streets in that familiar, comforting spring light. Mary Ellen and Chloe waited a few moments, thinking Paige was adjusting the final details herself, but the silence grew longer than expected. "Paige, everything okay, sweetheart?" Mary Ellen asked, approaching the curtain. No answer. A chill ran through the mother's spine, the kind of instinct mothers can't explain. "Paige, say something," Chloe urged, her voice trembling now. The fitting room remained completely silent. Carmen, finished with her other customer, came over looking concerned. "Girls, what's going on?" she asked. With shaking hands, Mary Ellen pulled open the curtain. The wedding dress hung perfectly on its hanger, as if it had never been touched. The white satin shoes sat neatly on the floor, the silk stockings folded beside them, and the lace veil, passed down through 3 generations, lay untouched. But Paige was gone. The fitting room was barely 30 square feet, no window, no other exit except the curtain they had all just looked through. There was no sign of the young bride. Mary Ellen screamed her daughter's name. Chloe, only 18, froze in disbelief. Carmen, with 30 years running the boutique, had never seen anything like it. They searched every inch of the shop. The storage room, the bathroom, even the tiny back patio used for deliveries. Nothing. The call to the police came at 12:15 p.m. Lieutenant Mark Harris of the San Antonio Police Department arrived with 2 patrol officers. A veteran of the force, Harris, at first suspected cold feet. Runaway brides weren't unheard of. But as he examined the fitting room and listened to the testimonies of the 3 women, his expression shifted from skeptical to deeply concerned. "Ma'am, did she show any signs of nervousness about the wedding?" Harris asked Mary Ellen, who was sobbing uncontrollably. "Never, Lieutenant." Paige was thrilled. She spent months planning every detail. "She loves Ryan with all her heart," Mary Ellen answered through broken sobs. Chloe, still in shock, added details. "She was talking, even singing while putting the dress on. We heard her moving inside. There's no way she left without us seeing." Carmen confirmed the same. She had known the family for years, had seen Paige come to the boutique many times. "She's a serious young woman, a teacher. Not the kind to disappear on a whim," Carmen said firmly. The fitting room was sealed as a crime scene. Investigators inspected every inch: the brick walls, the tiled floor, the wooden beams above. No hidden doors, no secret panels, no architectural. Trick explained it. City records showed the building dated back to 1890. No tunnels, no underground passages. Ryan was located at the quarry 30 miles away. His reaction was pure disbelief, followed by panic. He reached downtown in under an hour, face pale, hands shaking. "This can't be real," he repeated as he held Mary Ellen tightly. "We talked last night for hours. She was so happy, planning our honeymoon to San Diego." Investigators quickly checked everyone's alibis. Ryan had multiple witnesses confirming he was at the quarry since dawn. Mary Ellen and Chloe had been together the whole time. Carmen had been with another client who confirmed everything. There was no logical explanation. The first days of the search focused on San Antonio's historic district. Police, firefighters, and volunteers combed through streets, parks, abandoned buildings, and empty lots. Hospitals, shelters, and neighboring towns were alerted within a 100-mile radius. Local media picked up the story by Tuesday. The San Antonio Express News ran the headline, "Bride Vanishes Without a Trace During Fitting." Television crews soon followed, and the case of Paige Mitchell spread citywide. Theories flooded in. Some suspected kidnapping, though no ransom demand came. Others whispered she had run away, but evidence of her happiness erased that idea quickly. A few mentioned old urban legends about historic buildings, but police and family dismissed them as nonsense. Lieutenant Harris expanded the search statewide. Missing persons databases, bus stations, airports, train depots, every lead checked, none panned out. Paige's co-workers at Roosevelt Elementary, where she had taught for 5 years, described her as joyful, dedicated, and completely in love with Ryan. Ryan's parents, Edward and Louise Carter, joined the search. "We love her like our own," Louise told Lieutenant Harris. "Ryan hasn't slept since this happened. He's falling apart." Weeks passed. The search extended across Texas, Dallas, Houston, even El Paso. Sightings turned into dead ends. Her photo appeared on television, radio, newspapers across the state. No useful information came. Carmen's bridal boutique became a place of pilgrimage for reporters and curious onlookers. Exhausted by the attention, Carmen confided to Mary Ellen, "Every time I see that fitting room, my heart breaks. I can't even sleep anymore." 2 months later, with no leads, the case began to go cold. Police kept it technically open, but resources shifted elsewhere. Mary Ellen and Chloe never gave up. They visited the police department weekly, bringing any scrap of information, refusing to let Paige be forgotten. Ryan fell into deep depression. He quit his job, moved back in with his parents, unable to face life without her. The wedding plans, the venue, the invitations, the honeymoon trip, sat, frozen in time, silent witnesses to a love interrupted. On the first anniversary of her disappearance, a mass was held at San Fernando Cathedral. Family, friends, and neighbors gathered to pray for Paige's return and to comfort the grieving family. Father Joseph Hernandez, who had known Paige since she was a little girl, led the service with words filled with faith and hope. "Paige lives on in our hearts and in our prayers," he told the congregation. The years moved forward relentlessly. Mary Ellen aged before her time. Her hair turned white, the lines of worry deepening on her face. Chloe finished nursing school, married, had children of her own, yet she never stopped searching for her sister. Ryan, after 5 years of mourning, met someone else and eventually married. But those who knew him well said he never fully healed from losing Paige. Carmen's bridal boutique finally closed its doors in 1998. Carmen, now elderly and ill, could no longer work in a place that reminded her daily of that awful morning. Over the years, the building housed a craft shop, a bookstore, a cafe. No business lasted long there, as if the tragedy had left an invisible scar on those old brick walls. In the San Antonio Police Department archives, the Paige Mitchell case file gathered dust. New generations of officers knew it more as an urban legend than an open case. Occasionally, a journalist fascinated by unsolved mysteries would dig it up and write a feature, but media attention always faded quickly. Through all these years, the family never completely gave up hope. Mary Ellen kept Paige's bedroom exactly as she left it that March morning. Her clothes carefully folded, her teaching books stacked on the desk, framed photos of her and Ryan on the nightstand. The room became a shrine, a monument to interrupted love and a mother's unbroken faith. Chloe, now a mother herself, told the story of Aunt Paige to her children like it was a bedtime tale. They grew up knowing her only through pictures and stories, keeping her memory alive for another generation. "Your Aunt Paige was the kindest woman in the world," Chloe would say. "One day she's coming home." As technology advanced, new tools offered new hope. When the internet spread across the U.S., the family built websites dedicated to Paige's case. Her photo appeared on missing persons forums, alongside detailed accounts of the day she vanished. But despite the internet's reach, no new leads surfaced. By 2010, as social media took over, Chloe created Facebook pages for her sister. Support groups for families of the missing shared the story widely, keeping Paige's face on screens across the country. Her bright smile and hopeful eyes appeared in timelines from Texas to New York, as strangers rallied around the mystery. Ryan, now a father of two with his second wife, occasionally joined these online efforts. His new family knew the story well, and respected the quiet sorrow he still carried. "Paige was my first true love," he admitted in a televised interview on the 20th anniversary of her disappearance. "A part of me will always wonder what really happened that morning." Mary Ellen, now 70, faced health problems brought on by decades of stress and grief. She often told doctors she couldn't leave this world without knowing what happened. To her daughter, "God can't be this cruel," she whispered on sleepless nights when the house was silent and her pain felt loudest. Lieutenant Mark Harris had retired years earlier, yet Paige's case followed him long after his badge was turned in. In his memoir, he dedicated an entire chapter to her. In 40 years on the force, he wrote, "I never found a case so haunting or heartbreaking. The image of that mother crying for her vanished daughter will stay with me until my last day." Over the decades, new investigators tried fresh approaches. Criminal profilers reviewed the evidence. Forensic experts re-examined the fitting room with modern technology. Cases of similar disappearances from other states and even other countries were compared. Every promising lead ended the same way: in silence, in frustration. In 2015, a famous psychic visited San Antonio, claiming she could reach Paige through her gifts. Mary Ellen, desperate after so many years without answers, agreed to the session. Surrounded by candles and crystals, the woman declared Paige was at peace, but provided no clue about where she was or what had happened. The family left the session more heartbroken than hopeful. Television shows about unsolved mysteries featured Paige's case several times. Producers from Los Angeles filmed dramatic recreations of that March morning. Actors played the roles of Mary Ellen, Chloe, Lieutenant Harris, and Carmen. The episodes were emotional, well-made, but brought no new leads, only brief renewals of public curiosity. The old boutique changed owners many times across the decades. Each new tenant knew the story. Some even used it as a marketing hook, especially near the anniversary dates. Tourists came, took photos, speculated about the mystery. But the truth never came. Chloe, now in her 40s, turned her sister's case into a personal crusade. She worked full-time as a nurse at San Antonio General Hospital, but every spare hour went into chasing leads, contacting authorities, keeping Paige's name alive. Her own children grew up hearing the story, promising to continue the search someday. "Mom never gave up," Chloe told Mary Ellen during Sunday visits, "and neither will we." Mary Ellen, frail but determined, nodded through tears. Her Catholic faith had carried her through the decades, but the weight of not knowing pressed heavier each year. Then in 2020, when the COVID-19 pandemic changed how people bought and sold everything, online marketplaces exploded. Facebook Marketplace, eBay, and countless local buy-sell trade groups became lifelines for families cleaning out homes, selling heirlooms, moving belongings. It was here, in this digital age, that Paige's story would take an unexpected turn. After nearly 3 decades of silence, Anna Sullivan, a 28-year-old graphic designer living in Austin, Texas, had developed a passion for vintage fashion. Her apartment was filled with unique pieces she found at flea markets, estate sales, and increasingly through online listings where families sold decades-old belongings. During the pandemic, with remote work giving her extra free time, Anna began hunting for vintage wedding dresses for an art project she called Broken Promises, a photo series capturing the melancholy beauty of bridal gowns that never made it to the altar. One Sunday in October 2024, Anna stumbled upon a Facebook Marketplace post by a user named Carmen Villarreal Jr. The post featured photos of a wedding dress that immediately stopped her scrolling. The description was short but striking. 1992, wedding dress, hand-embroidered, never worn, selling due. To urgent move, price negotiable. The pictures showed a white satin gown with intricate silver thread embroidery. Tiny orange blossoms stitched with stunning precision. It looked as though it had been waiting decades for someone to notice it. Anna felt an instant connection, not just to the beauty of the dress, but to the sense of history stitched into every seam. She messaged the seller right away, asking for more details. The reply came a few hours later. Carmen Jr. explained that his mother had owned a bridal shop in San Antonio for decades. She had passed away recently, and he was clearing out both the store and their family home. "This dress has a story," he wrote. "My mom never talked about it much, but she kept it in her personal closet, separate from everything else. I think it belonged to a bride who never came back for it. Mom was sentimental about things like this." The conversation continued for days. Anna, intrigued by both the craftsmanship and the mystery, asked for more photos and measurements. Carmen's son was very cooperative, sending photos from every angle and explaining the embroidery, techniques he'd seen up close for years. "Mom always said this dress was waiting for someone special," he wrote in one message. "Maybe that someone is you." The price he asked was reasonable, considering the craftsmanship and age of the piece. Anna didn't hesitate. They agreed on shipping from San Antonio to Austin. The dress arrived a week later, carefully wrapped in tissue and tucked inside an old box that smelled faintly of lavender and nostalgia. When Anna unfolded it in her apartment, reality surpassed her expectations. The gown was even more beautiful in person, and the embroidery revealed a level of mastery that only comes from techniques passed down through generations. But there was something else. Inside one of the inner folds, Anna found a tiny hidden pocket containing a note yellowed with time. With trembling hands, she opened it and read the words, written in blue ink in a graceful feminine cursive. "For Paige, with all my love. May this dress bring you the happiness you deserve. Grandma Rose, December 1991. The discovery took her breath away. This wasn't just another vintage piece. It had a name, a personal history. Family love stitched into every fiber. Anna felt she was holding something sacred, a testament to the bond between generations that had survived the years. Intrigued by the note, Anna reached back out to Carmen's son and asked about Paige, the name mentioned in Grandma Rose's message. The reply stunned her. "Oh yes," he wrote. "Paige Mitchell. My mother told me the story when I was a teenager. Something very strange happened at the boutique in the early 90s. The young woman disappeared while trying on the dress. We never learned what happened to her." Anna asked for more details, and he recounted what he remembered from his mother's account. The mysterious disappearance, the empty fitting room, the fruitless search, the devastated family. Everything lined up with the gown now hanging in Anna's room. Mom kept the dress all these years, thinking maybe one day Paige would come back for it, he continued. But over time she realized that wasn't going to happen. Before she died, she told me to find a way for the dress to fulfill its purpose, even if in a different way. The revelation completely changed how Anna saw her purchase. It was no longer a simple vintage piece for an art project. She held a family relic. Oh, wedding gown that had waited 32 years for a bride who never wore it. That night, Anna couldn't sleep. She sat staring at the dress in the lamplight, the embroidered orange blossoms whispering of interrupted love, of hopes cut short, of a family that had lived decades without answers. By morning, she'd made a decision that would change the course of the story. Instead of using the dress for her photo series, she would do something more meaningful. If Paige Mitchell had vanished in 1992, her family was likely still alive, and still wondering. The dress might be a key to giving them some kind of closure, or at least a way to honor the memory of the missing young woman. She began searching online for information about the case. To her surprise, she found multiple references. Digitized, newspaper articles, Facebook pages dedicated to the search, TV segments that had covered the mystery. The story matched exactly what Carmen's son had told her, but with many more details and testimonies. Anna read everything she could, the family's statements, Lieutenant Mark Harris's remarks, the theories explored over the years. With each article, she sank deeper into the Mitchells' tragedy, and her sense of responsibility toward the dress grew exponentially. She found the Facebook page that Paige's sister, Chloe, had kept active all these years. Help Us Find Paige Mitchell had thousands of followers and was updated regularly with messages of hope, photos of Paige, and reminders that the search continued. Anna spent hours reading Chloe's posts. There were photos of Paige at every stage of life: her first communion dress, her high school graduation, her early years teaching in an elementary classroom. The images that hit hardest were of Paige with Ryan, her fiancé, so happy, so in love, so full of plans. The comments revealed the impact the case had made in San Antonio and beyond. People who had followed the story for decades left notes of support, shared theories, offered prayers. It was clear Paige hadn't been forgotten. Her disappearance had touched hearts across the country. Anna also found a recent interview with Mary Ellen, published on a local blog around the 30th anniversary of the disappearance. Mary Ellen, now well into her 70s, still clung to hope. "I can't die without knowing what happened to my girl," she said. "Every day I pray that someone somewhere has information that can help us." At that moment, Anna knew exactly what she had to do. She couldn't keep quiet about the dress. The Mitchells deserved to know that the gown, lovingly embroidered by Grandma Rose, had survived, and that someone had found it. She might not be able to give them the answers they'd sought for decades, but she could offer a tangible connection to Paige. After several days thinking through the gentlest way to reach out, Anna decided to write a private message to Chloe through the Facebook page. She chose her words carefully, explaining who she was, how she had acquired the dress, and her desire to return it to the family if they wished. "Dear Chloe," she began, "my name is Anna Sullivan, and I live in Austin, Texas. A few weeks ago I purchased a vintage wedding dress through Facebook, not knowing the story behind it. I've since learned it belonged to your sister Paige, and I feel it should return to your family." Anna attached photos of the gown and the note from Grandma Rose. She explained that it had reached her through Carmen Villarreal Jr. and that she wanted to do the right thing. "I can't imagine the pain you've lived with all these years," she wrote, "but I want you to know the dress your grandmother made with such love has been cared for and preserved. If you'd like it back, I would be honored to return it. I believe it belongs with you, not with me." She sent the message on a Wednesday night. Anna wasn't expecting a quick reply, given how delicate the subject was and how deeply it might affect the family. But to her surprise, Chloe responded in less than 24 hours. "Anna," the message began, "your note has left me speechless. After so many years, I never imagined something like this could happen. Paige's dress. My mother always wondered what became of it. We're infinitely grateful you reached out." Chloe explained she needed to speak with her mother before deciding what to do with the dress. Still, just knowing it had survived and was in careful hands brought them unexpected comfort. "Could you give us a few days?" she asked. "Mom is in her 70s now, and news about Paige always hits hard. But I think this could bring her some peace." Of course, Anna agreed. She understood the delicacy and didn't want to pressure a family that had already suffered so much. In the days that followed, she kept researching. She found more articles, more interviews, more details from the decades-long search. She also came across other cases of mysterious disappearances, but none with the specific, singular features of Paige's. A week later, Chloe wrote again. This time the message was longer, charged with emotion. "Anna," she said, "I've spoken with Mom. Chloe's next message came days later. "Anna," she wrote, "I told Mom about the dress. At first she got very emotional, but then she said something that surprised me. She said maybe it was a sign that after all these years, the dress had found its way to someone who cared enough to find our family. Mom says anyone who felt the responsibility to return Paige's dress must have a very noble heart. We'd like to invite you to San Antonio if you can come. We want to meet you, and, of course, bring Paige's dress home." The invitation moved Anna deeply. She didn't hesitate to accept. She rearranged her work schedule, packed the gown carefully in its original box, and prepared for what she knew would be an emotional meeting. The trip was set for a Saturday in November 2024, exactly 32 years and 8 months after Paige disappeared. Anna boarded an early bus from Austin, the box on her lap like a fragile treasure, carrying both nervousness and anticipation. During the 3-hour ride south, she thought about the strange chain of events that had brought her here. What began as a simple search for vintage dresses for an art project had turned into something far more meaningful. She felt like a messenger of fate, closing a circle that had remained open for over 3 decades. San Antonio greeted her with the same blue skies and golden light that Paige had known on that March morning in 1992. At the bus station, Chloe was waiting, now 50, streaks of gray in her hair, eyes that carried decades of sadness but also unshaken strength. The first embrace was instant, emotional, as if Anna were an old friend rather than a stranger. "You have no idea what this means to us," Chloe said through tears, holding her tightly. On the drive to the Mitchell home, they passed through the city's historic district. Chloe pointed to where Carmen's bridal boutique had once stood, now a chain clothing store. "Every time I drive by," she said softly, "I imagine Paige walking out that door, smiling, apologizing for making us wait all these years." The Mitchell home stood in the same modest neighborhood where Paige had grown up, a 1960s single-story house with pale pink stucco walls and a small garden out front where roses and bougainvillea climbed the fence. Mary Ellen was waiting at the door. At 74, she moved slowly, her hands unsteady, her eyes always searching, as if expecting her daughter to appear at any moment. But when she saw Anna step out with the box, her face lit with a spark long absent. "Come here, my dear," she said, voice breaking as she opened her arms. "You brought Paige home." The embrace was long, heavy with decades of grief and gratitude. Anna felt in it the weight of all those years, of unanswered prayers, of holidays spent wondering, of birthdays marked by absence. Inside, the family had prepared a traditional Texas-style meal. Chili, cornbread, slow-cooked beans, sweet tea, the table set for 4. Mary Ellen, Chloe, Anna, and one empty place that always remained for Paige, a tradition they'd kept for 32 years. Before eating, Mary Ellen asked to open the box. With trembling hands, she lifted the lid, peeled back the tissue, and when she saw the dress for the first time since that terrible morning, she broke completely. "It's exactly as I remember," she whispered through tears. "Every stitch, every flower. My mother made this. She worked on it for months at night when we were all asleep. Said it had to be perfect for her granddaughter." Chloe touched the embroidery gently. "I remember when Grandma finished it. Paige was so happy. She tried it on once at home. Said she felt like a princess. We never imagined it would be the only time." Anna took out the folded note she'd found in the hidden pocket, the one from Grandma Rose. Mary Ellen read it. Silently, then clutched it to her chest, crying softly. "My mother wrote this just months before she passed," Mary Ellen said. "She was so sick, but she insisted on finishing the gown. Said a grandmother must dress her granddaughter on the most important day of her life." They talked for hours. Anna listened as they shared stories about Paige, her teaching job, her engagement to Ryan, her plans for the future, the wedding that never happened. They spoke about the endless searches, the false leads, the years of waiting. "We never stopped looking," Chloe said quietly. "Even now, when I see a woman in her 50s who looks like Paige might look today, my heart stops." I always think, maybe it's her. Maybe she lost her memory. Maybe. Her voice trailed off. Mary Ellen described the hardest moments. Christmas. Mornings with an empty chair, birthdays marked by silence, the time she thought about selling the house but never did. This house is a lighthouse, she said. If my girl is lost somewhere, she needs to know where home is. That's why. I've never moved. That's why her room is still the same. Anna asked to see the room. Chloe led her down a hallway lined with family photos to a white painted door. When she opened it, Anna stepped into a time capsule from 1992. Pastel pink walls, posters of 90s pop singers, a shelf of dolls, stacks of teaching books on the desk, clothes still hanging neatly in the closet, as if waiting for Paige to return. Mom cleans this room every week, Chloe said. Changes the sheets, waters the plants. Like she might come home tomorrow. On the nightstand sat framed photos of Paige with Ryan, both young and glowing with life. In one she wore a pale blue dress, laughing toward the camera with a joy that made the mystery even harder to bear. What happened to Ryan? Anna asked softly. He married years later, Chloe said. Had kids, but he still visits on every anniversary, brings flowers for Paige, says he never stopped loving her. But he had to keep living. Back in the living room, Mary Ellen suddenly spoke with unexpected firmness. Anna, I want you to keep the dress, she said. Anna blinked. Ma'am, no, I brought it back for you. Listen to me, dear, Mary Ellen said, her voice steady. This gown waited 32 years to fulfill its purpose. My Paige never wore it. I'm too old to keep it locked away anymore. But you're the age Paige was when she vanished. God chose you to find it, to bring it back to us. Chloe nodded through tears. Mom's right. The dress needs a life. If you wear it someday, if you let it shine the way Paige never could, you'll be honoring her better than keeping it in a box. Anna was overwhelmed. But I'm not even engaged. I have no wedding plans. It doesn't matter when, Mary Ellen said softly. When the day comes, you'll wear the love my mother sewed into every stitch. It will be like Paige is there with you, celebrating your happiness. Anna realized this was more than a gift. It was a passing of the torch, a chance to carry forward a story interrupted for too long. There's one condition, Chloe added, managing a smile through her tears. When you get married, we want an invitation. Mom and I want to be there, Chloe had said, to see Paige's dress finally fulfill its purpose. Anna accepted the request with tears in her eyes. She promised to care for the dress like the family treasure it was, and to honor Paige's memory by wearing it when her time came to marry. That night, Anna stayed as a guest in the Mitchell home. Mary Ellen insisted she sleep in Paige's room, a place no outsider had stayed since the disappearance. Paige would want you to feel at home, the older woman said softly. Sleeping in Paige's bed was surreal for Anna. Surrounded by the young woman's belongings, a time capsule frozen since 1992, she felt an unexplainable connection to someone she had never met, but whose life and loss had now become part of her own. The next morning, before heading back to Austin, Anna went with the family to visit the symbolic grave they had built for Paige at the city cemetery. It was a simple headstone that read, Paige Mitchell, always in our hearts, 1969. We never put a date of death, Chloe explained, because we don't know if she's gone. To us, she's still alive somewhere, waiting to come home. Standing there, Anna made a silent promise to keep Paige's dress safe, to carry her memory forward, to never let her story be forgotten. It felt like inheriting not just a garment, but a sacred responsibility. The bus ride back to Austin was quiet, heavy with reflection. Anna carried with her not only Paige's wedding dress, but the tears, memories, and unshaken love of a family that had turned decades of grief into strength. The experience changed Anna deeply. In the weeks that followed, Paige's story stayed with her constantly. The dress now hung in Anna's closet, no longer just a vintage find, but a legacy, a symbol of love interrupted, waiting for a second chance. Her original art project, Broken Promises, began to evolve. Instead of photographing abandoned wedding, Dresses, Anna decided to create a full documentary series about missing persons in the United States, using art to keep their memories alive. The first piece in the series was, of course, Paige's dress. Anna's photos captured not only its beauty, the silver thread embroidery, the delicate lace, but also the sorrow and hope stitched into every seam. When Anna shared the images online along with Paige's story, the response was overwhelming. Thousands of people shared the post. Comments poured in from families who had endured similar disappearances, from people who had found mysterious heirlooms, from strangers simply moved by the Mitchells' decades-long fight for answers. But one comment changed everything. A woman from Phoenix, Arizona wrote, "My aunt worked at a private hospital here in the early 90s. She always told us about a young woman who arrived with total amnesia after an accident. She never remembered her name or where she came from. The dates match the disappearance you describe." Anna felt her heart stop as she read the words. She immediately contacted the woman, whose name was Patricia Moreno. "My aunt, Dr. Rosa Moreno," Patricia explained over a video call, "told us about her often. She came to the hospital in March 1992 after being found unconscious on a highway outside Phoenix. She had a severe head injury. When she woke up, she couldn't remember anything. Her name, her family, nothing." The details Patricia recalled were chilling. A young woman around 23, slim build, dark brown hair, delicate hands suggesting she hadn't done heavy labor. The description matched Paige perfectly. "What happened to her?" Anna asked, heart racing. "My aunt cared for her for months," Patricia said. "She had no known family, no memory, so she stayed on at the hospital as an assistant. Eventually, she fell in love with one of the nurses. They got married. She took his last name because she didn't remember her own." Anna asked for more information. Patricia explained the woman had chosen the name Elena. It was the first word she spoke when she began talking again, though she didn't know why. She married a nurse named George Castillo, and they'd lived in Phoenix ever since. "Do you know if they're still alive? Any way to reach them?" Anna asked, barely controlling her excitement. Patricia promised to find out. Her family had stayed loosely in touch with Elena and George over the years, especially after Dr. Rosa passed away 5 years earlier. She hoped to track them down. 2 days later, Patricia called Anna back with news. Through a mutual acquaintance she had found Elena Castillo, now 55, living with George in a quiet Phoenix suburb. They had 3 children and a simple, happy life. "I told my friend about your search," Patricia said. "Elena is willing to meet you, but she says she doesn't believe she's the person you're looking for. She's tried to remember her life before the accident many times, but the amnesia never lifted." Anna didn't hesitate. She cleared her schedule, booked a flight, and called Chloe in San Antonio with the news. Chloe's reaction was a mixture of hope and fear. "What if it's her? What if it's not? I don't know if my heart can take another disappointment," she admitted, her voice trembling. "But after all these years, we have to try." When Mary Ellen heard, she began to cry softly. "I always knew my girl was alive," she whispered. "A mother knows. I always knew she'd come back to me." The trip to Phoenix became a family mission. Chloe went with Anna, and after much persuasion, so did Mary Ellen. "If it's really Paige," Chloe said, "Mom needs to be there, and if it's not, at least we'll know we tried everything." The meeting was set for a Saturday afternoon at a small cafe downtown. Anna, Chloe, and Mary Ellen arrived early. Mary Ellen was visibly nervous, her hands trembling, asking the time every few minutes. When Elena Castillo finally walked in, the room fell silent. She was 55 now, streaks of silver in her brown hair, her figure slender, her face matured but carrying a quiet grace. She moved with confidence, but her eyes held a searching quality, like someone always trying to remember something lost. Mary Ellen rose slowly, studying her face, her gestures. Decades had passed, but there was something in the way. She pushed her hair back from her forehead, in the tilt of her head, in the curve of her smile. That was unmistakably familiar. "Paige," Mary Ellen whispered. Elena froze. For the first time in 32 years, that name triggered something deep and physical inside her. A shiver ran through her body, her eyes filled with tears. Her hand flew instinctively to her chest. I don't know why, Elena stammered, softly. But that name, it makes me feel something. All these years, sometimes I dream about someone calling me that. But I never knew what it meant. Chloe stepped forward carefully, pulling old photographs of Paige from her bag. Elena, she said gently, we want to show you some pictures. Not to pressure you, just to see if anything feels familiar. They spread out photos of Paige. As a child, a teenager, a young teacher in love, Elena studied them closely. She couldn't say she recognized them. But slowly, something in her expression changed. This little girl, Elena murmured, pointing to a photo of Paige at 8 years old. She looks like the child I see in my dreams. In the dreams, I'm playing in a garden filled with flowers. I never knew what it meant. I've never known where those images come from. Anna decided to ask the direct question. Elena, does the name Ryan Carter mean anything to you? The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Elena brought both hands to her chest, her eyes filling with tears as her breathing turned shallow. Ryan. Why do I know that name? Why does my heart hurt when I hear it? George Castillo, Elena's husband, who had stayed quiet through most of the conversation, moved closer to steady her. Elena's had episodes like this before. He explained gently, especially when she hears certain names or sees certain things. Doctors say they're fragments, memories trying to break through. Mary Ellen could hold back no longer. She stepped forward and, with trembling fingers, touched Elena's face. You have a tiny scar here, just in front of your left ear, she said, her voice breaking. You got it when you were 6, falling off your pink bicycle. Elena's hand flew to the exact spot. The little scar she'd always had, one she could never explain, was there beneath her fingertips. How could you know that? She whispered, now completely overwhelmed. Because I was there when they cleaned the wound? Mary Ellen said, tears streaming. Because I am your mother, Paige. And I've waited 32 years for this moment. Silence swept the cafe. Conversations at nearby tables faded as strangers sensed the gravity without knowing the story. Paige, Elena, stood frozen, as if her mind were trying to process decades of locked-away life. Then she began to sob softly, uncontrollably. I can't remember, she kept repeating. I want to remember, but I can't. But I feel like I've been waiting for this my whole life. George, shaken but steady, looked to the Mitchells with the same compassion that had defined his years caring for Elena. Please understand, this is very hard for her, he said. For more than 30 years, she's lived with the frustration of not knowing. If she really is your Paige, then we all have to move carefully. Chloe nodded. We want only what's best for her. If she's our Paige, we don't want to cause more pain. We just want her to know we never stopped searching. We never stopped loving her. They talked for hours. Elena, now aware that she very likely was Paige, listened to the full account. The disappearance, the endless search, the years of hope and heartbreak. She couldn't summon specific memories, but every piece of the story resonated somewhere deeper than words. My children, Elena said suddenly. I have 3 kids. They don't know anything about this. How do I tell them I might not be who they thought I was? Mary Ellen wrapped both of Elena's hands in her own. You are exactly who you've been all these years. A good woman, a loving mother, a faithful wife. Finding your past doesn't change the beautiful person you are today, George added, voice low but firm. Elena is the woman I fell in love with, memories or not. If you're her family, then you're ours too. We just need time to take this in. Anna, witness to the impossible reunion, felt the weight of how a simple vintage dress had carried them all to this moment. She took a breath and opened her phone, showing a photo of the gown. There's one more thing, she said softly. Elena, this is the dress your grandmother, Grandma Rose, embroidered for your wedding to Ryan. The dress you never got to wear. Elena studied the picture with quiet wonder. It's beautiful, she murmured. And For some reason it makes me ache, like I've dreamed of a dress like this all my life. Chloe explained how Anna had found the gown, and how that discovery had led them here. It sounded too extraordinary to be true, yet the truth was sitting around their table. What happened to Ryan? Elena asked gently. He married after years of waiting for you, Chloe said. He has children, but he never forgot. Every year, on the anniversary, he brings flowers for you. He always says some part of him is still in love with you. Elena absorbed this quietly. I'm glad he was able to build a life. After what I've heard today, I think that was right. I found love with George, too, and I don't regret the life we've made. The weeks that followed were intense for both families. Elena began specialized therapy for traumatic memory recovery. Doctors warned that after so many years, full recall was unlikely. Her children, Javier, Carmen, and Luis, took the news with surprise and curiosity. They had grown up knowing their mother remembered nothing of her early life. Finding an extended family felt more exciting than frightening. I always knew Mom had a special story, Javier said. Now we understand that look in her eyes sometimes, like she was searching for something she couldn't name. Mary Ellen traveled to Phoenix several times to know her grandchildren. Though Elena couldn't remember being her daughter, a natural bond bloomed between them. The grandchildren embraced their new grandmother immediately, captivated by stories of their mother's early days in San Antonio. George proved to be an extraordinary man, opening his home to the Mitchells without hesitation. Elena is happy to learn about her past, he said during one visit. Seeing her happy is all that matters, Ryan Carter was told. Disbelief gave way to emotion. After more than 30 years, he finally had an answer to the question that had shadowed his life. A meeting was arranged with both families present and mental health professionals nearby. When Ryan and Elena saw each other, they cried openly. Though she couldn't retrieve the details of their love, something unspoken passed between them. I feel like I've known you forever, Elena said. I can't remember our past, but I can feel that we mattered to each other. Ryan, now 55, gray threaded through his hair, lines of time etched at the corners of his eyes, spoke with calm grace. Paige, I loved you with all my heart when we were young, and I kept loving you through all the years you were gone. But now I can see we both found new love, new families, and that's okay. What matters is you're alive, you're safe, and you're happy. The wedding dress, the catalyst of everything, found its purpose in an unexpected way. Elena decided Anna should keep it, just as the Mitchells had hoped. This dress already fulfilled its most important mission, Elena said during a small family gathering. It didn't give me the wedding I was planning, but it gave me back my family. Now it should go on and bring joy to someone else. Anna, moved beyond words, promised to honor the dress's legacy. 6 months later, when she became engaged to her longtime boyfriend, she knew at once she would wear Paige's gown. The wedding became a celebration that braided 3 families into one: Anna's, the Mitchells from San Antonio, and the Castillos from Phoenix. Elena stood as an honorary matron, Mary Ellen as an adopted grandmother, and Chloe as the sister of Anna's heart. When Anna walked down the aisle in the gown Grandma Rose had stitched more than 30 years before, everyone felt the presence of generations of women who had loved and been loved through that fabric. During the ceremony, the officiant told the story, the decades of waiting, the circle finally closing, a family knit back together by silver thread and stubborn hope. There wasn't a dry eye in the church. Elena, still without specific memories of her years as Paige, felt peace settle where the ache had long lived. I don't need to remember to know I've been blessed, she said in a toast at the reception. I had a family who loved me for 23 years, another who cared for me for the next 32, and now an extended family that includes all of you. I am the luckiest woman in the world. Mary Ellen, now 76, with new light in her step since finding her daughter, lived to meet her great-grandchildren. Her last wish, to know what became of Paige, had been granted in the most beautiful way. The mystery of how Paige vanished from a fitting room in San Antonio and ended up on a roadside outside Phoenix was never fully solved. Doctors speculated about a dissociative episode triggered by pre-wedding stress, a wandering flight that ended in an accident and amnesia. But the family decided the details no longer mattered. What mattered was that after 32 years apart, love had prevailed. A broken family was made whole. A dress had fulfilled its destiny. And 3 generations of women learned that love's ties outlast time, distance, even memory. Grandma Rose's gown had woven its final story, binding past to present, loss to reunion, sorrow to joy. In its silver threads, a truth was written. Sometimes the precious things we lose have a way of finding their path back when we need them most. And each March in San Antonio, the 2 families gather, not to mark a disappearance, but to celebrate the day Paige, now Elena, began a new life that would at last lead her home.